Welcome everyone to this talk. Thank you for coming inside on this, please don't close the window all the way. Yeah, on this hot afternoon. Welcome to this talk, Closing the Loop with Plastic Furniture ? And I think this debate is going to be a lot about the question mark. I'm happy to be joined by this amazing panel. And they will introduce themselves in a while, also so I don't butcher their company names. But this is the talk where because I'm from Lifestyle and Design Cluster, my name is Johannes Stenstrup, and we're here at Circular Furniture Days where we exhibit a lot of furniture, interior companies who are working with circularity. And we saw a theme in the exhibition, which was plastic being used in new ways. That's definitely a trend. But how far are we from closing the loop? Is it the right thing to do? And what can we do more in the future? The role of both brands, maybe also government and public. So I would like to start over here. Just a short introduction, 2 minutes. Who are you and what do your company do or organization? Okay. Yeah, Nils Peter.
My name is Nils Peter Flint. I call myself Sustainable Vision Design Developer. And I've worked with sustainability and design for the past almost 40 years, almost, a long time. And I'm working right now as a design director art director for a company called Arapaha. And Arapaha, and those are the ones I represent here today. And Arapaha is a relatively new company, Dutch company, if I say that. And basically what we are doing, or what they're doing, is that we are capable of creating things like this, which can also be used for furniture, of course. And this is 100% PLA, polylactic acids. But the interesting thing is that it is, first of all, of course, it's biodegradable. But what we do is that we reuse the monomers, recycle the polymers. I'll explain this a little bit more later, but basically it's a very sophisticated process. And what we are capable of doing is extracting colors, everything, taking that out, and basically reusing, recycling everything. So it's patents that have been formulated, and those, of course, I cannot explain about, also because I don't know them. So I can talk more general, and what I'm going to talk about and what I'm working on with the company is what I call micro-living. So basically we believe that in order to facilitate a truly sustainable production and a truly sustainable future, we need to consume less. No matter how sustainable we do things, no matter how interesting this is and how many times it can be recycled or reused, we need to reduce our consumption. And especially in this part of the world where we use, I don't know if you know this, let me start with this. In Denmark, we approximately use 5 times more than what the planet can actually take. So we are on the top 10 or even top 3 list of consumers on the planet. We have to reduce, and Europeans in general and the industrialized world. So therefore, this is not just a discussion for me about recycling, reusing, it's also a discussion about the amount that we are consuming.
Yes. I think we'll just let a few more people in. It's a very popular talk, so if you don't sit right in front of the door so that more people can sneak in.
Oh, nice.
And they're bringing the whole exhibition in.
Yeah, the whole exhibition is coming. As I said, it's a trending topic. Thank you very much, Nils Peter, and we will get back to your technology. Lars, please introduce yourself.
My name is Lars Hove, and I'm founder of the company Hove, that in its basic ground is an outdoor company doing Danish design at high quality at fair price level. So in the basic, we are actually not that sustainable, but we are curious, and we have started a new series and a new way of thinking that is going to be integrated into the company over the coming years. We call it My Trash. My Trash is a concept that allows us to use the Danish household waste, the trash from the Danish households, in producing design furnitures. So this is pieces from the households in Randers, a small city in Denmark. Their household waste from the kitchen we refine, and we mold in mass production. We can only agree that buying a MyTrash product doesn't help the world, it makes it worth. So the dialogue about consumption is surely something we need. But having the responsibility of a company that also have to do some turnover, there's a lot of conflict going on here. But we all have the respect of the planet, and we have to do all we can to have our own share. I think furniture will not do any bigger harm or bigger gift, but it can do some nudging. We have a vision that all waste, all trash is seen as a resource. And we think that we have, not only on a vicious basis, but actually we have produced many thousands of products already, that we have shown that you can use trash as a resource. We have a lot of headaches, political headaches, logistic headaches, a lot of missing links to do the narrow calculation and find out this is a really good idea. But the nudging is step one. And for a small company in Ry, where we are situated, we are proud and fighting each day to change the mentality a little bit.
Thank you.
Oh, that's short talk. Okay. I get a question later, right?
Yes, we'll get back to Lars and all of these headaches and how you plan on nudging. But we have an entire panel, and I want to maybe skip you for the last, Henrik, and then do me.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'm the co-founder of Small Revolution. I don't know if you noticed some of the products here around at the show. We are born out of the project of making products 100% circular. All our products, we work from some very strong design principles. All our products are, of course, made from 100% recycled and recyclable plastic, one type of plastic, always mono-material products, which means there will be absolutely no sorting when being recycled. We have local production. All our production chain is in Denmark, and we are also locally sourcing our waste sources. We do circular collabs too with companies. This is a collaboration with Velux windows. I don't know if you know those windows up here. I think it's connected with these red plastic things that usually would be burned off, but we turn them into home office desks for people working at Velux. We do collaborations with Novo Nordic, Danish return system, and many more. Besides from that, we have this collection, but we also have several other collections that we sell both to B2C and B2B. We're also now launching in September a take-back solution, so we can take back the product and actually show that it can be recycled several times. The last thing is that all our products should and can be recycled up to 5 to 6 times. So our main idea is to actually perceive all our products as not only a product, but as a material. Yes. So that's it.
And I promised when I booked this panel, I didn't know who would be furnishing the room, but it turned out to be Small Revolution and how. So,
so big applause.
Yes, thank you to those.
So you are sitting
companies.
on trash.
Right? Yes. And then, Henrik, last but not least, you are not from a company, but you're from an organization called Plastic Change. Please introduce us. And maybe we've seen you before.
Yes, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, yes. Well, what a travel it's been the last 8 years. I mean, this whole issue is pretty young. I mean, when I talked about microplastic in 2016, no one knew about what is microplastic, and now every student in middle school is working on a project on microplastic. So a lot happened regarding the whole agenda around plastic, and that we see so many companies acting on the issue is definitely really interesting for us. I mean, the travel for us has been really, I mean, I've been half the way on a ship around the world to recognize that I should be standing here. I mean, because we used 3 or 4 years to measure microplastic in open oceans. So we brought scientists, we brought journalists on board our ship just to realize that all of our oceans is now polluted with microplastic. Only 2 days we didn't catch any microplastic in our net. So the learning was, well, it's all polluted somehow, and 90% of the plastic is ending up at the seafloor. So we can't really clean it up. So our conclusion was we must go to land, we must stand in this debate and work with all the different sectors to see how can the different sectors add the best of their work to the solutions. For example, I just work with the agricultural sector, number 5 in the world using plastic, and it still surprises me that, for example, the fertilizers are covered with plastic. Or that we are in our sewage plants, we are using microplastic directly to catch nitrogen, and then we bring it on the fields. It's so complicated. It needs so many solutions, and also regarding furniture, we need to talk. We need to debate. How do we do it? So I'm happy to be here.
Nice. And what an amazing panel. Thank you all for being here. And we've also seen it's a full room now. Plastic is all around us. And I wanted to do just a quick exercise with you guys, because I guess you know this, but let's just make it very visible. Everyone who is wearing plastic, raise your hand. And that is called polyester, nylon, acetate, something, just any type of plastic. And those not raising their hands are lying, because you're the thread in your things, the rubber on your soles, and so on. And then raise your hand if you put plastic in your mouth today. So you all brushed your teeth? That's good. That's good.
Put plastic in your mouth.
Yeah, put. So
eating.
it is not put it in our mouth, but not eating it yet. Hopefully. So, and like plastic all around us. What is the best thing about this material, and what is the absolute worst thing about this?
Yeah, I mean, it has so many advantages. I mean, I'm wearing my contact lenses, and it's difficult to operate in a model hospital without plastic, etc. It's really making modern life easy for all of us. It's also, I mean, making some products stronger so that they last longer. So it can also be an advantage when it comes to reusability. And in that way you can say that plastic has all its pluses. And it was a success, and it's been a marvelous success for 60 years.
Yeah.
But we haven't handled the flip side, the back side of using all that plastic. And that's where we are now. And I think the worst thing really is that plastic is so complex today, and it's a choice whether plastic has to be so complex. It's so many polymers. I mean, we're using 20, 25 different polymers. We could use...
And what is a polymer?
Yeah, well, that's a basic material in plastic. That is that from oil extraction, you build up a monomer, and then you build up a polymer, a string of monomers. And that's the basic material in plastic. And we could use 2 or 3 or 4 polymers, making recycling and reusing much easier. And then you add all the substances that creates plastic. And that's all the UV agents, that's all the flame retardants, all the pigments. In PVC, it's lead, etc. So the complexity of the material is, I would say,
The worst.
the biggest
Most
challenge.
definitely.
That's very interesting. So it's not the thing itself, but what we do to it, maybe. And
Or how to
what do you
decompose it.
hope for in the transition to a circular economy for plastic? What is the grand vision that we could strive for?
Yeah, I mean, the grand
In
vision
your
is that
words.
we reduce our consumption.
Yeah.
Because
What these two
if we
talk about.
believe that we can recycle, and in that way we can solve the issue, then the situation today is that we will grow the plastic production 4 times the next 30 years. So we need to somehow find ways to reduce our footprint, and I'm happy that you started out with that remark on that we need to reduce consumption, because otherwise we're going to create smart solutions, and consumption is going to we're going to drown in plastic if we don't reduce consumption.
Right. That is, of course, and we had a talk yesterday talking about there's a poster on the wall, and the first part of circularity is, of course, reduce. And I think we can all do it, but we also need reuse and recycling, and we're joined today by 2 Danish companies who are doing it. As I just said, we're standing amongst your furniture. Lars, can you please start and share why you started using this resource in your high-end, reasonable priced furniture?
Thank thank you. You can. Could we have a song afterwards? Perfect. By coincidence.
Okay.
So it was because we actually the chair you're sitting on, we were pretty late doing an indoor plastic chair, and we were discussing, does it make any sense to do that, because they were all over, but we saw that they have big impact everywhere, and we decided that the design you're sitting on was strong enough to be actually into the market. And during the process, my product development manager asked the one actually doing the molding, because he saw in a local television that they were doing something with trash. He said, is it possible we can do our chairs in that? And the answer was yes. And it was a lie.
Oh.
So the yes was much easier than the actual world. And then the really, because surely doing this, and I'm interested to hear all of this is not what we do with trash compared with, and we do normal injection molding with it, compared with virgin or with normal recycled plast. We don't have the same base. We need tolerances. We cannot do the same color. We put color in. We need tolerances all around. We also need tolerances for our the one buying it. So when you say, hey, we need to change how we use plastic to get down to very few things, there's a lot of change that have to be reset in their mindset.
Exactly.
And the politicians are our major task. We cannot carry trash around the border. That's not legal. Okay, we cannot. There's a lot of we cannot. When we ask about the distribution, with surely if you want to hit me, you can hit me with the distribution of our trash. It's not there yet. And when I ask the logistic company, they don't have a penny. They don't have a penny to help us finding new solutions. And the political system doesn't help it. They sign 5 years contracts.
Yeah.
So it was by coincidence, but when we saw it was possible, we jumped in. All the way, and we. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to bring more furniture in the world. So driving a company like I do, you need to make one level above. So it was a new vision that really made my life more. Somehow it made more sense. And
So how long did it take from your production manager seeing the local news clip to the chair being finished?
2.5, 3 years.
Okay.
And a lot of environmental waste before the first one was there. That's also part of developing. You do a lot of testing. You do so you cannot. Don't ask us to calculate day one. You need a vision and you need to go for it to make a change.
For sure. And me, we're also joined by you and your furniture, which. Can you tell us how this got started? And
actually we started out, I mean, we were 4 women starting the company, now we're 2 women. We actually wanted to create city spaces for women and girls. And then we bumped into plastic as an obvious material for use for public space. And then plastic waste, of course, was an obvious sort of, to push it actually to be sustainable in more than just a social sense. And then we want to make it colorful, we want to make it playful, and usually we see a lot of products that are green, that are brown, that are grayish, and we want to sort of be that sort of playful, fun way of actually recycling. And also we bumped into the idea about the story, like what you see is what you get. So we don't add resin, we just say, okay, this is the plastic waste that we actually use. And with that, actually a very strong story came across our minds, since we're working for the municipality of Copenhagen in Gladsaxe. They, of course, bought into the story of their local waste being transformed into public furniture. So that was where the idea derived from. And I have a background in city development beforehand, and I know how much money we would spend on restoring public furniture. Here we could take it back and remold it for like 1/3, 1/10 of the price as we would use of restoring furniture. So that's why we, came across plastic as an obvious, material for public use.
So you started a bit differently with
very much, yeah.
With the
and it was actually fairly easy. It took us maybe 2 months from actually we tried out with some molds that the production. So this is actually an industrial method that I use for chemical containers, and then we just hacked it, so to speak. And then, hey, what about if we just make this cube or this little? She was our little soldier first, the one that you're sitting on, and say, how about we make that shape? And it was fairly cheap compared to injection mold that you were doing, for instance. So
it also looks differently. So it's a different.
It does. It does. Yeah, it's hollow. But we can make things that also but it will always be hollow.
And so, just to understand, are you also using household trash, or what kind of?
Well, we used also household trash. I don't know if we have a product here, but yeah, we do. It's a speckled one with all the rainbow colors. So yeah, we do that. And we did an Amager Ressourcecenter. We took household waste from the municipality of Copenhagen and turned that into local furniture. So we would have an absolutely local production chain.
Great.
Yeah.
And we will also get to you in a minute, but I wanted to ask the entire panel, so what happens with your furniture? So you said you can take them back,
Right.
but what happens, Lars, to your furniture when it's end
When
of
you
use?
see them, surely it's not only plastic, right? So they are disassembled. Everything is to be taken apart.
Yeah.
So they can be reused, remolded again. So the same system, but you have this chair have a metal leg that have to be reused as metal, right? So yeah, and that's a part of designing. I would say a part of we cannot change all the plastic that's in the world today. So when I talk to the young designers, I reach out and say, hey, we have a big issue with multiple PET, because that's actually very difficult to reuse from the household waste. But hey, we have a common task to find out, because maybe we should stop using it. But we need to get better step by step. And I think that's a very important point, that we are design companies and working with some of the greatest designers in the world. It's that their task to help us to find new solutions also.
If I can add to that, actually one of our biggest challenges right now is actually to get the certification. We are looking into that. It costs a lot of money and it takes a lot of time. I think there is a lot of bumps on the way in order to actually get into the market that I think from a political point of view could actually be changed quite easily. Also the amount of types of plastic. If we could sort of limit just the types of plastic, it would save so many hours and very much money in terms of sorting.
Yeah.
So I think it's actually very simple steps that could be done in order to actually push this production method and these ideas much further.
And Henrik, hearing from these two innovators, I would say they are by now, do you think these are solutions for the future, or just while we're searching for a future?
I see it as a part of the search.
Yeah.
I see it as a part of the transformation that we're going through, and it's the first steps. I mean, that we talk about plastic, and that you invent this product, and we all discuss whether it could be even upcycled or is it downcycled. I mean, that discussion itself is really useful for us. And my problem sometimes is when people they talk about saving the world via using ocean-bound plastic for sunglasses or bikinis, or it's a part of the discussion, but don't overuse or don't double message. Don't think you are in the skies because you use some plastic from the water, because most of it is still on the seafloor. So it must be realistic. I mean, what we're talking about, and your messaging must be realistic around. You're helping. We're starting this. We're going through a transformation together. And we need to discuss whether this is the solution and be transparent. Transparency in your work is really important, so that we can have an open debate around, is this where we're going to end, or,
And I'd like to ask all of you now, how close with these things are we to closing the loop with having it not use ever new plastic with the solutions you have?
Well, this is basically what this is about.
Yeah. Maybe
Because
you can then, Peter, say
because I think
more
it might
about
make
what you
sense
work
that I sort of intervene here, because
for sure.
Because this is sounds a little arrogant to say, but this is the future.
Yeah.
This is plastic based on renewable resources, and it's biodegradable. So the complex thing about this is that bioplastic today is not necessarily a very good thing, because it uses a lot of energy to be produced. It's not done from organic farming. What we are expecting to do with this is that we will be able to, 3 to 4 years, to produce materials like this based on organic waste, meaning basically our household waste, organic. Because we can extract the sugar and the various components that we use in bioplastics and turn it into monomers and into polymers at a later point. Now, it's a very complex discussion, but what I want to say, and the message here is that plastic does have a future. It has a very big future. But what we are hearing here are you could say the steps on the road that needs to be taken, because we have massive amounts in the seas, everywhere else, that needs to be collected, that needs to be put into a system so that it is in a form that can continue to go in the closed loops. This, however, is the stuff that is the future, in the sense that it doesn't matter that much whether it is actually lost in nature, because it will disintegrate. it's not easily dissolvable as such.
How long?
Neither is human hair. I mean, human hair lasts for I don't know how long time, but we found, you know, in the Vikings with hair, etc., etc., etc. So there are things that are more easily biodegradable than others. But the main issue here is that it's based on renewables and can be biodegraded. The final biodegrading of this, the thing is that what happens here is that we go into a loop system. So we are a little bit provocatively saying that this lasts eternally. That's of course not true. But I would imagine that in 500 years, this material will probably still be here. Because we are reusing on a molecular level, meaning that we are reusing the monomers. And this process, nobody really knows about it. It's a brand new process which is developed in Holland and in the US. The production system and the energy that's put into the system is approximately 90% less of traditional recycling. So this is also why this is interesting. So there's a load of advantages, and it all sounds maybe a little bit too good to be true. In many ways it is. And my friend and the guy who has developed this stuff here is called Jorn Behage. And Jorn I met 40 years ago in Amsterdam at Rietveld Design Academy, where he was studying to be a designer. And he said, I'm going to work on bioplastic. I said, come on, that's bullshit. Now he's there, and he is probably one of the guys that I know knows most about bioplastics in general. And he claims, and I do believe him when I see it, and I've seen a lot of stuff from his hand, that this stuff here, the way it's constructed, this is the patent in the whole thing. It's the way basically you could say, we weave fibers together. That's the simple way of talking about what happens here. He claims that within 4 years, this material here at Arapaha will be able to produce a material that is 4 times stronger than steel.
Wow. That's
so this is something I'm not saying that it's not. I'm not saying, well, I'm saying it, but I'm referring to what Jon is doing. What I'm seeing, what they're doing, I am really amazed.
And you had a point that you see plastic very much as part of the future. I would like to bring that to the panel here, and like maybe.
And maybe I don't know if anyone else, but I mean that there is no sustainable resource. There are sustainable systems. Meaning that if you create a fantastic material and you have no return system, you don't have the technology
that's
built
integrated
around
in this.
it.
Yeah.
Yes,
the whole point behind Arapaha is that there is an entire loop system for everything.
Exactly, and
for
that's what you need.
The polymers, the monomers, the colors, the extracts, the softeners, everything.
Yes, and the UN in the next 3 years will design the new plastic treaty.
Yeah.
And a part of that discussion will be biodegradable plastics and whether they have space, whether there should be space for biodegradable plastics in the new plastic world, according to that treaty. So it's important for you to have your influence in that process.
I know this, and this is also why the debate is a little bit like the debate about flying, not flying cars, etc. All these issues are. I mean, personally, for example, I fly, but I don't have a car, which is not entirely true, but I'm of the belief that we need to discuss these issues much more pragmatically. And this is also why you have, as you know, talking about plastics, it's incredibly important that you understand the consequences of bioplastics, because if we don't start to produce from renewable resources, we are lost, because then we won't have any resources at all, really. We need to understand how we are building with the building blocks at molecular level from nature. That's the only way.
I just have a question maybe. So your material, is it made from recycled plastic or is it a new product? So you just basically want to replace plastic with...
This is made from PLA, polylactic acids, which is biodegradable plastics based on sugarcane.
Yeah, so you, so this should be a solution and not taking care of the plastic waste that we're actually dealing with.
Yes.
Right now we're generating exponentially, you know, plastic waste. I'm just thinking about how about talking about the resources that we already have. Yeah. And why not try to talk about how we can reuse that.
And I think this is why I wanted to bring it in.
But let me just say this, because you can't.
No, I'm just curious.
You can't create the same quality today from these resources. that we need to be able to do, for example, operation equipment, etc., etc., etc. They're very sophisticated materials.
I totally know that.
So this is very, very. I mean, I did this 35 years ago.
Yeah.
We did a project on recycled
I think if we don't talk in each other's mouth, it's easier for everyone. It's a very amazing. It sounds very amazing, and the reason we wanted to bring it here is because there is a discussion, and we had this yesterday, and I think this is where we want to end before we open the floor. Is that we need to design with waste while we're designing a world without waste. That is the slogan of a company we had on here yesterday, The Circular Way. And so this represents both sides, designing without waste and designing with waste. And I would like to give each of you an opportunity to reflect on the next steps. So what is needed to close the loop more, both from where you stand with designing out waste and also designing with waste. So if you all have just a few reflections on what is needed next to close the loop more.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it was not a critique. It was just often I just have to respond to what you were saying. Is of course, well, there might be a solution, but right now we actually have a problem, and how can we maybe transform that problem into something very resourceful, and maybe at some point maybe transform that into that solution you're talking about. Coming up with new products, of course, is amazing, but right now we have a problem. So the future, I think, would be really. I think we should definitely change our perception on our surroundings in general, that everything can be transformed. And we're basically surrounded by material and not products. It sounds like a little philosophical, but I think if we could sort of adopt that in our ways of designing, that everything is to be transformed. I talked with my friend's mother's friend. Yeah, she told me my grandmother when she was 14, she got this very big dress. That was when she was through this confirmation, and this dress was supposed to follow her whole life. And there was a lot of material, textile in it, so it could be transformed in all the, so she had to carry a child, so it was big, and then she had to cut up and down. And then when she was old, she actually wore the same dress. So it followed her whole life. And I think that's sort of a way we should start thinking, and I hope that could be the future somehow.
Yeah, very, very inspirational. Going back to find the future and like a vision.
Yeah, well, I'm going to do a debate on the folks meeting on Bornholm tomorrow, where I'm going to stand with some politicians and we are going to clean dishes. While we discuss why did we go away from so many. I mean, some of the very easy solutions just to repair stuff, etc. But I think, we need solutions on more levels. I mean, at the policy level, we need some reduction targets. Yeah. Today, we only have recycling targets. So that means actually production can grow endlessly as long as we have a recycling target. Yeah. And that will mean that we will overproduce. So we need some reduction and reuse targets on the policy level. And then we need you designers, we need you to keep up a really strong discussion about how can we design for life? How can we my mother and father, they bought products that could last, furniture that could last at least, they went to the bank and took a loan to buy their furniture, and those furnitures, they are still there today and they can be repaired. And that's just not the culture today, also regarding textiles, etc. So it's really about creating quality, long-lasting products with nice designs and things that can be disassembled and reused.
For sure. Yeah. Nice. We need policy and we need good designers. Lars, what do you think are the next steps?
And then a part of policy is also economy. We haven't touched base on that. I didn't ask about the price, because we can have a lot of vision and a lot of heart, and then we can talk to customers and at the end of the day say, what is the price? So politics is one part of it, but to reduce consumption is another part. We need to work at a lot of levels, but we also need to make sure we make new products that are within reach of economy. Otherwise it will be only small part of it, and the big manufacturers will go with still the main consumption, even though it's reduced in the worst way. So there should be political system, there should be clever designers. We need to work together, and I think that's an openness. One thing, if I should say, to patent, I hope it will be an open patent pretty soon. That is a part of it, sharing knowledge. You cannot say, hey, now I find something, I don't want to share it because I want to earn. That belongs to the history. to the future, we have to share all knowledge, and I think it's very, very important.
Okay.
Just to give you a little
two things. Well, we are trying to share knowledge here.
Let's get back to the economic reality.
Not touch about that, but just before you just prepare questions. We will get to the sharing knowledge. But what do you think is the next?
Let me just pick up on what my neighbor said and say one of the reasons why we need to patent, of course, is because there's an economic reality.
Yeah.
Therefore. So the other thing is I do not believe in long time products. I do and I don't, in the sense, of course, it's something that is valid. But we live in a world that is so full of change, and we need to give people the possibility to change. So what we need to do is to design systems that are capable of offering this. And this is the very complex thing. And this is why I've gone into this project, because I can see that with a very sophisticated reuse and recycling system, it's possible to actually create or give people the possibility of create their dreams. We're living in a world where, I mean, in 10 years, we will have robots standing at this door and opening the door and closing the door. I mean, things are going to go so fast. It's unbelievable. It already does. I think that what I'm standing with here after, well, as I say, 40 years of experience of working in sustainable issues in various ways, I truly believe plastic has a future, because it is a very, 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 at the end of the day, will become very inexpensive, very low in consumption of matter, but it can only last if we, as I started saying in the beginning, reduce our consumption dramatically.
Right.
We have to start, and this is where the real task is. Because this is a drop in the ocean. I mean, it literally is a drop in the ocean in the sense that when we look at our behavior in terms of driving, in terms of flying, in terms of consuming our spaces, for example, that's where the real big issues are. Not because we're just 5 million people here, but because we are 10 billion in 20 years.
So in a sense, I hear you agree also here with the reduction targets and many things very actionable.
Yeah.
Now I want to give the floor. I think we have time for maybe a few questions. If there are none, there are. Definitely. Yes, I think we will take a question here and then.
Hi.
So this mic is only the mic is for people listening at home. It's not for the room.
So I just wanted to hear Henrik, but all of you really, what do you think about the term biodegradable plastic? Is it real, and is it part of the solution going forward?
Very clear and concise.
Well, that's a good one. Yeah, I mean, it's been an issue for years now, our position on this, and our general position is no, there's not a future. There can be specific, I mean, diapers, I mean, it can make sense in some applications, and then you need a strong system around. I mean, in Berlin was tested, we collect all the diapers, and then we grow a forest on those biodegradable diapers. So, of course, there are ways of using materials where it's up in the air, whether it should be biodegradable. But looking at the big transformation, the system that we need in the future, I don't see a big future for biodegradable stuffs.
Yeah. Do you want a short?
I totally disagree. Totally disagree. And I think it's very dangerous, but what you're saying. Because if we are not starting to work with the biodegradable plastics, which this is, then we won't have a future for plastics. And we will diminish our possibilities dramatically. It's really important that we understand this. It's really important to understand that there are thousands, if not millions, of scientists and companies around the planet that are working on solutions. They are sort of at the beginning, all of them. If we stop it now, it's going to be a disaster. This is not the solution. This is a part of the solution. It's part of something. It's part of a ladder where we are transforming things into them. Actually, this can be also at some point become biodegradable. This depends on how we dilute it.
I think maybe we can take the rest of that very interesting one-on-one after maybe
Sure.
you have time after to go into details.
But let me just say that biodegradability, designing for biodegradability as such, is not a good idea. That's the conflict in this, because we need to reuse biodegradable plastics as well.
Right.
So.
Important. There was down here, I think, that in the blue one. Yeah, that was you. And then we also had one in the back and then one here. I think that's.
Hi, my name is Dita, and I think this new material sounds very interesting. I'm just curious about how are you going to distinguish it from other plastics, like in this recycling process? How are you going to prevent this plastic from not getting mixed up with the other plastic? Because that would be a disaster in some way, because then the other plastic would start to degrade and it would become like an even worse product and difficult to reuse.
We have a very, very, very strong policy on this. So, and it's already developed. There is a, what is it called, a QR code? So, which will have to be, you cannot use or do anything with the material that we are producing without putting on the QR code. And the entire system will then be explained to you how it's going to be turned back and come back, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's completely under control. Of course, it's all new still. So the actual collection systems are still, you could say, on the way, but it's there. And it's the way. It's a massive area, because we're just starting really to do the recycling and the reuse. We're also talking about reuse, for example, of metallic components, or even the material itself could be that it would be reused as a shape or a component or whatever into something new. That's also relatively new. Not to recycle it, meaning chopping it up and recycling it that way. So reusing it, and the whole discussion about reuse and recycling is, from my point of view, extremely important. Forget about upcycling, downcycling. That really is bullshit, if you ask me. The whole point is that we are reusing and we are recycling. And we need to understand that reusing is basically taking this matter as a piece and reusing it, then maybe chopping it off, coating it over, and turning it over, and it becomes a lamp or something like that. That's reuse. Recycling is when you chop it all up and melt it down again.
Okay. I wanted to ask the rest of the panel if you have any other comment, because this is a real issue in the recycling debate, keeping plastic sorted. So Henrik, you had an easy solution, just reduce the types. But the rest of you, how do you see this in the future, the challenge of keeping the sources separate? Because you also mix them.
Yeah, I mean, what is, and surely it's a very good question, what is done by technology, what is done by hand, what is done by system? I think we have to look all ways, because technology, for example, if you see this one, when then it's redded, it comes out in all color, and step one, we can take all black aside, and then we can put it into the different type of plastic. It's done by technology. So something should be done by a manual system, something should be done by technology, something should be done in micro environments, something should be done in macro environments. It have all aspects, and it needs to be taken care of. And surely a part of this is the economy and the political system. We need support to find ways. I must say, dealing with the logistic renovation partners.
Yeah.
Guildford yet.
You would not believe what you meet in those conversations.
And I think that's what the question is.
So we want to disagree here, but actually we're so close to agreeing,
yeah,
so scoring, right?
Yes.
And the real problem is outside this room, right? Yeah. So this solution is working, our solution is working, it's all working, and we need to work together to get it. But there are missing politicians, there are missing logistics, there's a lot of things here that is really not supporting what we are here for, because it's not the design, it's not the material, we can reuse everything, it's behavior also. When you're done, I mean, and that is maybe easier in Denmark than in India, right? When you see it in the sea, it's because, I mean, behavior and political system, we still send plastic to Germany, to send it to Greece, to India. Come on, it's still allowed to do that within the legal system.
And the politicians are at Bornholm, so we couldn't get them.
I've been there, and they say sorry, and it's difficult, and then they walk away, right?
For sure. Me, do you have a short comment?
Yeah, no, what
we'll
I've
take
also
a
been
question
looking for
more.
is actually to have some clear agreements across, countries across the world to actually go for several solutions. I love that, new solutions coming up. But I mean, I guess there are tons of new solutions to plastic waste, right? And that's actually a problem. We don't want more. We want it sometimes centralized somehow, and some clear also certifications. There are tons of different certifications in order to be cradle to cradle, to have some kind of EU flour, etc., etc. I would love if we could just have some very clear routes that we could maybe follow and then actually gather.
Interesting.
Yeah.
One short one, and then we will take one more question.
Yeah, I think one of the solutions is really boring, but it's standards.
Yeah.
I mean, because you have standards in many other materials. I mean, Maersk, they can disassemble one of their ships 100%, and it's standardized, and it can also be recycled and reused again. But in the plastic world, it's really the Wild West. But it can be done. I mean, you have towns around the world where we have only one cup. It has a deposit on it, and it's returned, and it's cleaned up, and it's used again. Some of the solutions are really pretty simple. We just need to get them going. Yeah.
Well, good that you're taking them to the politicians. We have time for one more question. Everybody's out of oxygen, maybe? Yeah, a short question, yeah?
I mean, in part, I think it's already been answered a bit. It was actually touched upon something that Lars brought up, which is because I've been sitting in a number of different talks, similar ideas. By the way, I really enjoyed the debate, so go for it. I actually agree with pretty much everyone's perspectives, and I think it's important to hear both because I think you're both right, at least in my opinion. So my frustration, I guess, as a designer is that when we have these kinds of discussions, we're preaching to the converted, right? Everyone here cares, otherwise they wouldn't be here, right? So how do we actually get to the people who are going to help us to actually, ignite this revolution, right? Like, how do we get to the public to convert their perceptions of plastic and to reduce consumption? How do we bring that power to the people to support our cause? Because otherwise, we're going to continue to end up in this environment. Every design festival, I attend many of them around the world, and it's the same thing over and over again.
I think it's the $1 million question that we can end on. Two people, everybody.
I think we have the same answer.
Sure.
Part of it,
I'm
right?
not sure, actually.
Okay,
Well,
but a part of notching is to make it narrow, to make it personal. We we take from one hotel chain, we take their waste from their kitchen and bring it back at their own chair. So they can say all our chairs in this hotel is done by our own waste. So when you come there and visit them, you know that this is worth it, right? There's a lot of steps. This is a minor drop, right? But to make it personal and to make it make sense to collect, and there's a long way to India, I have to say. It's a big world, right? It's more simple when we are in the systems we are here. So how we get there is if it's not the politicians, it's step by step. We cannot screen them out day one.
Yeah.
Personal,
okay,
step by steps.
Yeah, then I definitely agree because that's what we're doing. We're actually designing partnerships, and we believe, of course, that circular production should come with inside rather than be pushed from the outside. So working with Velux or working with the Danish industry, the Danish Federation, that we do is, of course, a political act in order for them to actually say, okay, we have a concrete solution here. What can we do next? So it's very much about the dialogue among the production, right? Also, when we work with the production who made these, they didn't want to work with us at all to begin with, but now it's their primary product. So it's a constant, fight.
Come on, it's a fight. It's a
all the way through the production chain and with the client.
Great. You short one and then Henrik.
Well, I just want to say that I really agree in what you're doing and what you're doing. Well, all of you, but that's not the point. The thing is that these are the first steps. The very important thing, I think, personally, is that we have to start to tell the complex stories, because it is not simple. And the reason why it's not simple is because we're developing something like 5,000 new chemicals every day. So the world is incredibly complex, and there are certain people who understand this complexity. We are some of them. You are actually you're sending out a product saying to consumers through, I think it's Hans Thuy who's designed the chair.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, he's sitting right there with his mobile.
I know.
And the fantastic thing is that there are guys doing this, but the designer, from my point of view, the point of view that designers need to do, I'm working on something I call 1,000-year scenarios. So I think you as a designer have to be capable of starting to visualize what I do, what does it have, what happens to it in a 1,000-year perspective.
Okay.
And you can do that if you dare to. And together with help of advanced technology, et cetera, they're doing calculations. But we need to start to understand the complexity. And the only ones who can do that really is actually the brains behind this, and that's the designers. Because we have this completely, I wouldn't say fucked up brain, but sometimes you think it is. But because we're capable of understanding complexities in a different way, as I see it, and can be very creative, it is very much our task to communicate the complexity. Because this guy here, he's doing a fantastic work in doing his product, selling it, and he's good in selling it as well. So, but Hans Thuy and you and me and all the others are, you know.
Okay, so building an army of fight-ready designers who understand complexity.
Exactly.
Okay, Henrik, do you have a last comment?
Well, I'll try to make it short. I mean, that designers are now interested in this issue is really huge for us.
Okay.
I mean, there's a whole movement to ask out there. I mean, I'm representing 2,800 organizations in Break Free from Plastic. We're working worldwide with a worldwide strategy. So we have a lot of knowledge that we would like to share with all of you, companies, designers, etc. So, I mean, just raising the issue and inviting partners to discuss what would be the solution in each case, a chair or whatever you produce. I mean, there will be a meaningful discussion around what is the right material to use, and we would love to be a part of that.
So maybe this was not wasted after all. An hour of your time. The oxygen has run out, but the fighting spirit is strong. Thank you to this amazing panel. Let's give them an applause. To you in the room, I'm sure everybody here, at least me and Lars, would like to stay. They're in the exhibition next door. Lars is just outside with more of his lawn furniture, and I think also maybe you have time to stay if someone has questions.
See the exhibition.
To see the exhibition as well, and thank you to everyone. Jeg har en lille ting til jer, men vi kan bare cutte den ting til jer.
Thanks.